Welcome to Toffee TV. Today I am joined by the man who scored the winner the last time Everton won major honours. All the way from the United States, it is Mr. Paul Rideout. Paul, thank you so much for giving up your time to have a chat with us.
My pleasure. Looking forward to it.
So you're all good. You're looking, listen, you look like you could still be playing. You still look sharp. Not a day older than when you scored that goal at Wembley.
I don't know, a few more wrinkles and whatever, but yeah, I'm trying to stay trim as you can and fit. And, I see you kind of look at my sons now and they're all trim, and so you try to keep up. But
yeah, you've got to, haven't you, mate? Listen, before we get into the Everton stuff, just two things I want to talk to you about. First of all, that goal at Wembley for England schoolboys. I mean, what a goal! What a goal!
Yeah, it was special. It was one of those where it's a hit and hope. It was a Scottish goalkeeper, so that little bit there. But no, I would say that the only comparison between that one and the FA Cup final is, again, if you saw my celebration, it was awful. I didn't know what to do on that one. I didn't know what to do on that one. And then I just had a brain fart and then just ended up doing something. But yeah, the goal was special.
Absolutely super. After that goal, did that put an added pressure on you? Because obviously it was an incredible goal. It was on the telly. We've seen it. And as a young player, were you at Swindon at the time?
It was.
Did people expect more of you because of that, or did that not really come into it for you, do you think? Were you just focused on making it as a pro, really?
Well, when you're a kid, I mean, the pressure's not there. When you're, any of this Rashford, any top young players, I think your first 3 or 4 or 5 years, you're just excited about being out there. You want to play, and they were talking about money. I was reading with the Premiership. The older players obviously want to make as much money as they can. But the younger players, it's not about money, it's about opportunity to play. And hence my career of going to Italy from Swindon. But no, I mean, I don't think it adds any pressure. It was just, you try things that as you get older, you worry about what the fans think, the coach thinks. But as a kid, you just do what you feel is right at the time.
Fair play, and it was right. What a goal! Obviously started at Swindon, moved to Aston Villa, scored the winner against us in a second leg of the league, the Milk Cup semi-final. I remember that as a young lad. Scored
I do.
The winner down there at Villa Park.
Yeah, I do, and the fact that we were 2-0 down from the first leg, and then actually that was the first leg, but I know Neville Southall took me down for a PK, and I always told him about it, and he denies it, but it was such a blatant PK to make it 2-2. So yeah, that was a big day, and that was my first introduction to playing against Everton.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask you about was actually moving to Italy, because it was a thing. Not a lot of players did it. And I suppose a lot still don't do it, really, which is why it stands out. But young man, you've done well at Villa. I've seen 20 goals, 19 goals in 54 league games, which is really good. Just 1 and 2 basically. And then you moved to Bari. Was it a difficult decision to leave Villa and go to Italy, or were you just excited and you wanted that opportunity of playing football in a different country?
Well, at that time, it was difficult to go to Italy because they were very selective, and I didn't think I'd have an opportunity to go there. There were so many great players. It was basically what the Premiership is now. Everyone wants to come to the Premiership. And so there were a lot of good players out there. Ray Wilkins was out there at the time, Haitley, Souness. So, for a kid to have the opportunity, they originally came to watch Gordon Counts. And I scored a couple of goals in that game, and they showed some interest. Came to watch again. Fortunately for me, or not, I scored another couple. But I've said it, and I'll say it again, is that if I'd have had some instruction, somebody to get their arm around me and say, "Hey, this is not the right time to go," I wouldn't have gone, because in hindsight, it wasn't. I was doing fine in England, learning my trade with some great players. Peter With was, I looked up to, Gary Shaw at the time, and I wasn't mature enough, and my game wasn't good enough really to go there. I did well in my first season. I had offers to go to another Italian club, but it just, the mental side of it was tough. And if I had that time again, I would have stayed and learned my trade in the Premiership.
Still, I mean, your record, 23 goals, 99 games in Serie A, in Italian football. That's not bad, because, notoriously it's a defensive-minded league anyway, isn't it? So to, practically a little bit over 1 in 3, but that ain't bad for a striker, a young striker going and playing in a different country.
Yeah, it's not too bad considering we were a lower level team. That's the first time they came into the Serie A for those 20 odd years they've been outside. So, with what we had, it was a slow start. The first 4 or 5 games I didn't score, and I was getting all sorts of stick, as they do with the Italians, and then you score a goal and it all changes. Yeah, I mean, again, it was, that 19, 20-year-old age, and it was, you felt the pressure then. That was the first time I really did feel pressure from the crowd. Previous to that, you had bad results at Swindon, but it didn't bother you, because you're just out there and you didn't even think about the result. You just wanted to play. But that made me grow up in that sense. But it was a long 3 years, because I was homesick. Being a young kid, you kind of want to go out a little bit. You want to enjoy the social life as well, and it wasn't there, and so that kind of made it tough. And obviously with your family a ways away, it wasn't, you didn't come home and see your mates and that kind of thing. So it was just different in that way. But I felt once I started scoring, you kind of relax a little bit, enjoy the soccer again, and it turned out quite well for me.
Yeah, come back to Southampton, 20 goals, 75 games, and Notts County, Rangers, and then you end up at Everton. How did the move to Everton come about?
That was where Graham Sharp, I think, was moving on, and they needed a striker with some experience that wasn't too expensive, and it played at that level. So it was when the news came in that I was wanted by Everton. Obviously, Howard Kendall was a great player in his own right, and Everton, when I played against him with Southampton, they were always a difficult team to play against, well supported, and and that environment, as a kid nearly going to Liverpool, you have a sense of what it really means up there. So at the end of the day, I wasn't getting too many looks, because Mark Hateley was the number 9 at Rangers. So I wanted to give it a go, and really excited to get the opportunity to go there.
Didn't work out too badly at all, did it? Signed on the day before the first game of the season, and played against Sheffield Wednesday on the Saturday in a 1-1 draw, in a game that I thought Barry Orme was going to be a goal-scoring midfield player, because he actually scored for us that day. And how wrong can you be? I think he only scored another one, and that was in that Wimbledon game, which was a screamer as well.
I watched that the other day, actually. I was watching that. It was quite funny. It was a cracking goal, wasn't it? When he scores, he makes it worth your while,
Oh, not bad. But just look, I was going through that. Obviously, the first season and 24 games with 3 Premier League goals, but you were coming into a side that was, Howard was trying to put some kind of marker down with it, but it wasn't the greatest Everton side. Obviously, at the time, he was struggling a bit. How did you find it when you came in? I mean, your second game for us, we beat United 3-0 at Old Trafford. If you remember, that was the obviously the first Premier League season. So
Yeah, it was a tough season. Obviously, there was a lot of. It wasn't a good dressing room because there was a lot of older players that were about to move on, and there was some new players that had come on. People weren't getting on well with each other, so the dressing room wasn't the best, to be fair.
Right. Yeah.
And with obviously the pressure of getting results at a club like Everton, which it always is every year. I watch even now, if you're halfway in the table, it's not good enough, especially with the money they're spending. But that said, it was. I knew it would be tough. I said it before. I was in the stand. I was injured with a cup game against Bolton. We were 2-0 up. Was about 15 minutes to go. We lost 3-2, and then the fans turned around and having a go at me, and having a go, and totally understand their frustration. But I just said to my wife, gosh, this could be a quickie here. But it ended up being really, really cool. The first season, outside of that, everything else I really enjoyed. And as that season went move forward, I felt more comfortable playing. But obviously, I had to start off well in the second season. Otherwise, I wasn't going to stay there.
I mean, your first league goal for us was the winner at Forest, which was a brilliant header from a Bob the Pole cross. Put that away and we won 1-0 at Forest. Scored against Southampton, your former team, scored against Middlesbrough, couple in the cup. So, I mean, coming into a team that was struggling and, like you say, not a great dressing room. It doesn't make me laugh, but that story there you're saying about the fans having a go at you when you weren't playing. I mean, you scored in the first Bolton game in the FA Cup, and then you have to sit there and people are having a go at you. It's we're not all like that, Paul.
No. And again, when you because I'd stayed there so long, and the way that they eventually treated you was fabulous. And all I talk about is Everton now. I still love Southampton; it's my home club, but Everton is where I really feel a relationship with. It's just purely frustration. It is at any time. That they're proud people, and it costs a lot of money to come to games, and if players aren't performing, it is what it is, and you got to expect some of that. But at the end of the day, you can't control everything, and
No.
You have the good times, your bad times, and when you get the good ones, like the FA Cup, like scoring at Ipswich, staying up, that was one of my best moments, probably better than the FA Cup, just because of the importance of it. And obviously the Wimbledon game, but you don't want too many of those days. Thankfully,
God, no. No, we really don't. Well, your second season, 6 goals in 24 games, so doubled your league goals. We started that season really well. 3 wins on the run.
Yeah.
We scored the winner against Man City, I think, in the week.
Yeah.
We beat them 1-0 in the second game. You scored the winner, sliding in at the park end, I seem to remember. And but obviously going through that season, the man who signed you, Howard Kendall, we beat Southampton at home 1-0. And I remember driving home from the game. It was in my dad's car going home from the game, and he'd resigned, and we were puzzled as fans. But did you see that coming as a player? Or was it a shock to you?
Yeah, because you never knew what he was thinking. I mean, he was such a lovely guy. He really was. Yeah. More of a kind of friend to the team than the manager. And so
right.
I don't think the discipline was there enough. And the fitness, you see when we moved on a couple of years on in Dogs of War, we were so fit and sharp, and we all knew our jobs, but there it's almost like playing off the cuff, so it wasn't so structured, but what I can say with Kendall is that I love being around him. He made you feel wanted, and he made you feel good. He was a lovely man, coach wise, I don't know all the time. He did a fantastic job for a certain certain time, and I think there was much better players before than there were the time I was there, including myself. When I'm looking at Andy Gray, for instance, I touch Andy Gray. He was fabulous. He was one of those that I learned how to head the ball from. He wasn't the biggest guy, but his time and his braveness was fabulous, and that's what I learned from. So it was that time, and we had a change, and things move on.
Mike Walker, obviously Jimmy Gabriel took over, and we had that. I mean, really, without putting any blame on Jimmy Gabriel, that we lost 6 of those 7 games he was in charge of, and that was what really dragged us into what then became obviously a relegation battle for the second half of the season. Because when Howard went, I think we were 8th in the league. So we were okay. We were doing okay, and then obviously Mike Walker was the up and coming manager, so to speak, and he come in, but by the time he come in, we were in a little bit of trouble, weren't we? Did you feel that as players over that Christmas period, that things just weren't, we just couldn't get any kind of formula going, I suppose?
No, because we didn't have a plan. There was no plan that came in. That was the difference between Willie Donaghy coming in and Joe Royle. 2 different people. One nice, good cop, bad cop, but the bad cop is the one that didn't stand for anything. And that group there with Walker, Jimmy Gabriel, like, phenomenal player, fabulous guy, but just too nice and he didn't want to upset anyone, and he was kind of pushed into that, I think. But he's a lovely man, and I enjoyed his company. Walker was. I think if you look at even Norwich, and you might disagree, and a lot of Norwich fans might, but I thought he got that job. He walked into that job when they were a top team anyway. He had a lot of good players at Norwich, but he came in, and it's nothing to do with a personal side. He didn't fancy me, but I would never say that about anyone. There just wasn't structure. There just wasn't a work ethic that you could say to yourself, all right, we've got a chance to get out of here and push on and do something. It just wasn't there. And I think as time went on, fans realised that. You could see, if you asked any player, majority of players, I would say, they would say the same thing. We needed something there that we could work off. You can't play off the cuff at that level. It just doesn't work. And structure is the be all and end all. And if you it can be different. We were dogs of war, and then you look at Man City. They play terrific soccer, but he's planned that. He worked on that, and he made those players, over time, understand that this is how it works. Now you can do your individual stuff, but it was never going to work. And and again, I thought I would be moved on and wouldn't be a part of it. So it came to such a situation that they decided to make a change, thankfully at the right time, and we still had enough time to change it and turn it around. And obviously, what happened after.
Before we get on to Joe Royle, I've asked Neville Southall says all you need to know about Mike Walker. He's not as you know what Nev's like, Paul. Nev's not backwards in coming forward.
He's honest. He's honest. You say it as it is.
He has told me some things about Mike Walker. Let's leave it there. But that Wimbledon game, you touched on it before, obviously. Things had happened, and we'd found ourselves needing to win that game. The final game of the season, and playing them when they were a side, weren't they? The tough side, big team, tough team. I mean, what was that like to be involved in? You're at the club, and all of a sudden, the park end's being knocked down, and people are in trees, and stands getting built, and everything was crazy, wasn't it?
It was, and it started with the day of the game of driving a bus from the training grounds, parking our cars there and not at the stadium because of the aftermath if we did go down. Then you get there, and the tension is that not just the game, that the whole build up to it, the whole week of it. It was all you could think of. You couldn't sleep. You didn't want to be a part of that team that would get relegated anyway. So you get in there, and then you hear. This is the biggest roar, and I've been in some big games, the Celtic, Rangers, and all that sort of thing. But that roar, that particular day, never stopped, never dropped. 2-0 down after, I think, about 12 minutes. And you're going, and then again, I looked at the tape and I saw a couple of, Holdsworth missed a couple of absolute sitters late on. But, you're 2-0 down and we get a cracking goal to bring us back into the game. And you're in there at half time and we're down. And you've got a lot to do. And Wimbledon don't care about anyone. It doesn't matter if it's Liverpool, Man United, they don't care. They come and play the same way, and they never give up. No, I mean, to be fair, at half time, the dressing room wasn't what you'd think it would be, screaming and shouting. It was pretty calm. Everyone kind of understood that we had to go out there and give it everything. Again, the only way you really could do that is by the way that the fans treated us. They never once dropped their standard of keeping on our side. It was amazing. 2-0 down. You had deaf silence for about 5 seconds, and that roar came back in. I've never heard anything like it, and that's what kept us going, and that's what got us the result, I believe.
Yeah, and unbelievable. So, never want to experience that again. Thank you. That wasn't great, but we come out the other side of it. Obviously into the next season. Started that. I mean, you scored on the opening day of the season with Graham Stewart against Villa. You put us 2-1 up, and I think Dean Saunders equalised, and we just couldn't. Even though we led in another game 2-0 and threw it away, I think it was QPR. There was things just weren't going, but you saying that there was no structure, it's not likely to, is it? And then, we decided to make the change, get the first win against West Ham, draw at Norwich, we make the change. And then Joe Royle and Willie Donachie come in, and we play Liverpool, we're bottom of the league. We play Liverpool, who are third in the table. A chance to go top, I think, that night. And Big Duncan and then you get us 3 massive points in Joe Royle's opening game.
Yeah, that was... It was in the way that they came in. We went into the gym, and Willie Donachie said, "This is how we're going to do it. And if there's anyone here that doesn't want to do it, off you go." And obviously, no one did. But it was just work right, and organisation. Everyone understanding this is your job. No more right now. This is what we need. And we worked on it. And if you were coming to watch training, you go, Jesus, I'd hate to watch that. I hate to be involved in that every day. But it was what was needed. And I think that when we went out to the Liverpool game, it was probably the ideal game. If you can't get up for that one, you can't get up for any game. And, it was great atmosphere again. And Liverpool fans were sending all sorts of messages out there at that time, previous the run down to the game, and it was a pretty slow start by us. They had a couple of opportunities, and we looked a little bit nervous, but built ourselves in the game. And Duncan himself, great goal. That's what he was really strong at, bullying people, and that gave us an opportunity to work on being 1-0 up, but like you said earlier, that we were throwing those things away. But now we had a plan with the defensive side of it, that we'd stay strong and stay solid, and everyone knew their job and stuck to it. And we had a lot of workers out there, that were willing to do that. Duncan was a much better player than I was, in the respect that he had some serious pace. He had a fantastic touch for a big man, and he had great vision. So he had a lot going for him, and you know, it made my job easier. He did all the bullying, and I felt like I was a good technical, tactical player that could pick up the bits and then bring in the midfield and use the wide guys. But anyway, all said and done, you know, I got the opportunity to come on at half time. And it gave me enough time to get into the game. And obviously the goal, I felt it was one of, not just important, but it was one of my best goals because it was so awkward. And I didn't think I would get there, and the way that I came in and volleyed it, you know, went through someone's legs. So it's fortunate, but at the end of the day, I felt it was a really good goal. But that did so much for your confidence. But that said, the next game I started, and that confidence from that to that, I just felt like I could do anything because I had Duncan up there. I had a midfield that was so hard working, so organised, and so tough. I wouldn't want to play against Barry and Joe. They go through anything, you know. Yeah, and we had a solid defence all of a sudden that were working on certain things that Willie had instructed them to do. We didn't leave gaps in the back, and you know, that little run we went on of beating some really good teams at the time. You know, it was pretty impressive. So that you grow on that, and obviously with everything else with it, the feel good factor. The fans were back again and enjoying their soccer. It just felt a much better place.
Yeah, I mean, it was incredible to watch the team perform. The West Ham win, which was the last home game Walker had, was a nervy win. You know, you were throwing yourselves in the way of shots. We should have beat them by more. We had chances, but then they missed a couple at the end, and it was nervy. The difference between that team and the team that took the pitch against Liverpool, or rather finished against Liverpool that night, who were a good side, it was like night and day. The work rate, the ethic. I mean, was it something in terms of the fitness? Was that did Joe and Willie notice that immediately? Was this like, listen, you aren't fit enough? Did you feel that as players at the time, or are you just in that zone of this is what we do, you know, and you're thinking, I'm a pro, I'm fit?
Yeah, you do, and then you have a wake up call. But I think along with the fitness, it wasn't just that; it was the mental side of it. Is that, you know, if you're, like you said, if you're not on board, and I don't mean just your soccer or just wanting to be here or be in the team, it's like you have to throw yourself into this. Now, every pro should do that every time, but we weren't. And you know, when you're not winning, the confidence, it's hard. There's times when I've been on the field in some games, not particularly with Everton, but in general, as an older player, that you get scared of missing. Whereas a younger kid, well, I said earlier, you don't have that fear because you know the next one I come, I don't care, the crowd have a go, you don't even hear it. But and that's what that was. It was a whole confidence factor of what they brought. And you can be the best player in the world, but everyone has a downside, a bad time going through that. I just felt that you look in the dressing room, everyone's talking, everyone's buzzing, everyone is looking forward to training now, and looking forward to getting on the field. We were dreading getting on the field and thinking, don't want to let the fans down again. And it doesn't matter what level you play that, you know, you go through that process. But you know, that Joe was so good to go into his office, and even if it was nothing to do with anything, just have a chat with him. He's so welcoming, and you felt like, you know, if there's any problems anywhere, that you could just talk to him as a normal person, and you know, wouldn't go any further. So I just enjoyed that time with those guys.
Yeah, absolutely outstanding. You scored 6 days after that. You scored the winner at Chelsea.
Yeah.
Can you believe that? Can you believe that we still haven't won there in the league since your header?
I know, I keep getting mentions again. I keep living off those little things. It's not a good thing. That's the problem. I want it to change. But yeah, that's crazy. I actually scored another one in that game. That there was nothing wrong with it. I was mystified why he called it off. But yeah, I mean, we that was a good Chelsea team as well. They had a lot of talent, and we just went out there and we just bumped them. You know, they didn't have an answer to what we had, because I think we just surprised everyone without giving them any kind of time. That was a lot of good, solid players. Their midfield was excellent as far as tactical and technical, but work rate, they were over the top a little bit, and we took advantage, and terrific win that was. Yeah,
a great win. And then Leeds 3-0 the following game, and 3 clean sheets on the run, was incredible. And goals coming, you scored again in the Leeds game, and we all of a sudden Joe's come in and we've got 9 points from nowhere and give ourselves a chance, and outstanding start.
Yeah, but that's you build on one to another, and again, when the Leeds game, you have a little bit of luck. They again were a good team, but they gave us a little bit more room. When we scored again, so it was quick goals, and everything was bouncing for us all of a sudden. But going forward from that game, we lost a couple. But it still didn't deter you, that the fact this is right. We know this is eventually going to work more and more often, and that's a belief that you need, and that's what managers get paid for. And again, Willie, I don't think Willie got enough. Sort of people recognizing how much he did, as well as Joe, in the respective. How hard he was working behind the scenes. He was doing one-on-ones with us. He was doing the back four alone, and then, Joe would work with the forwards. But his instruction was so clear, and it wasn't complicated, but it made sense. And that's what I really appreciated at the time.
You're right. We lost a couple of games, but the confidence was still there. I mean, even Chef Weg come and beat us 4-1 over Christmas.
But it was never 4-1. Yeah, that was the strangest game. We were 1-0 up on that one. It was weird game, but we didn't drop it. Yeah.
But for you playing with Duncan, because obviously there was so many times in your career where you were the target man, even though Duncan's a big lad, but you were the target man. Was that something? Did you have to learn to play with a big man, or were you just like, well, great, he's going to take the knocks and I can try to pick up the bits? Did it make your job easier, or what do you prefer, being that focal point or not?
It did. I mean, I love playing with Tony Cottee as well. He's a good striker to work off. He's very clever, very intelligent. But what it did for me was, I still won my fair share of headers, but I didn't have to take all the knocks all the time. And you see defenders at times were scared of Duncan, because he wasn't scared of putting the elbow in, and he was a clever player in that way. And even in training, I wouldn't want to come up against him. He just knows how to use that body well, like Shearer did when I was at Southampton. He was so clever. It totally gave me more energy. I felt that I was in this day and age, I would have been an 8. I wasn't quick, and Duncan on the run was quick. I felt I had enough in my game to be able to work off that and still do some of that, and then get into the box a little bit more often. So maybe therefore I was getting more goals.
Yeah, a really good partnership. You scored your first cup goal in the 5-0 against Norwich. We beat Derby County in the 3rd round. Wasn't a great game. Hinchcliffe scored late on, and then Bristol City away. I mean, I still don't know today, still 25 years later, how we got through that game, because we got battered, didn't we? And then we had Matt Jackson in before Christmas, and even he was like, I don't know what happened that day. I just hit it with my swinger, and it goes into the net. But
I apologise to the Bristol City fans after the game. That was we were shocking, disgrace. And then that's what you need, though, a little bit of luck that you sometimes don't get. But that was the great escape. That was should never have been. So
no, but name on the cup stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah, but after that, it wasn't an easy run all the way through to the final. All good teams. So at the end of the day, we earned that right, I think, and the way that we were playing. That is where we got too big for our boots. But we learned from that, and the Derby game and the next one. Derby game was tough. It wasn't an easy game. But then, like you say, the Newcastle game was a good game.
They were a side, weren't they? They were a good side.
They were. And a great goal to win the game. And, and then you get the Tottenham, and it's just, I just felt on that day, and I think the group did, that Tottenham, for the team they were individually, I mean, great forwards. Their defence was their weakness. We just felt we could exploit that because they weren't fabulous in the air. Tottenham was one of my more favoured teams to play against because they played it the right way, but they never seemed to have central defenders that would, were tough guys. They were just technical, smart players, good soccer players, but not particularly good in the air. So I always felt that I would score against them. I just have a feeling that against certain teams. But it was unusual run.
What was it like coming out at Ellen Road that day? Because the way they distributed the tickets, they give Spurs that big stand, which they had, but we had the three sides of it. Being a fan in that ground that day, it just felt like a home game. It was just blue everywhere. So what was it like for the players coming out onto Ellen Road that day?
Well, it was fabulous for us because you look around and you realise, geez, where are the Tottenham fans? And even though they got that big stand, we never heard of it.
No.
The fact is, we never gave them a chance to start singing. We got the first goal, and from then onwards, we never looked back. The game was never a game, I don't think. We just stunned them. I think at that time, everyone wanted the Tottenham Man United final, and we were having none of that, and our fans were again exceptional. And it was, to be fair, how do we get Ellen Road? Because that's not far from us compared to Tottenham, and so everything was on our side. And that again in itself, that was a strange game. Matt Jackson scoring a header, putting us up, and then. We score another goal, and
we need to chat about you in this. Hang on, we need to chat about you because first of all, you almost make it 2-0, and Graham Stewart puts in your shot, doesn't he? It's a good save from the keeper, and Graham Stewart rolls it in for 2-0, which is incredible.
Good finish, I underestimated that finish.
Great finish. But what happens? Because you went down injured, and obviously we've heard all the stories from Joe and from Amo and the press that he subbed himself on. Well, you were getting treatment on the far side, weren't you?
I said to the physio, I'm going, he's not effing bringing him on, is he? I'm going back on. Tell him. But it was just one of those things where I all the way back as I was walking around, the fans give me a fantastic reception, but I was effing and blind, and I was going. How did this happen? But once you get on then he comes on, he scores straight away. What can you say? And that guy was such a happy guy. He's such a cool guy, and he's a top young player at the time. And in essence, it was fortunate for me because my knee was damaged, in a way, he did me a favour because I would probably not made the final. I was struggling to make it as it was through the treatment, but he came on, he lit it up, and it was a different type of player that they couldn't handle, and it worked out for everyone.
Yeah, it's a mad one. I don't know. Obviously, it is lucky that he came on, obviously, because we wouldn't have wanted to lose you for that vital last few games, and it was such a mad game, him coming on, and I suppose his pace on the counter-attack near the end probably played into it, because that was the only goal we conceded in the whole cup run.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even a penalty. Yeah. Sheringham bought the penalty, didn't he? That's right, yeah. He's very clever, and bought the pen, but
yeah, it was but he he's an elegant player anyway. Sheringham, very good player.
Yeah.
But I don't think for any minute in that game that we felt we were going to lose that. It was just we were so relaxed. It was just a reward for getting out of the mess we were in. This was a bonus all the way through. Other than the Bristol City game, we know a lot of us have talked about it, is that it just felt comfortable going through. And every game, the Newcastle game, even though it might have been different in Newcastle, but playing in our home ground, you just didn't feel like you're going to lose that game. And going to Tottenham, and then even the final, it's just it's our time, and such was the belief of the team.
We'll come on to the final because you still scored a massive goal for us before the final. But you mentioned it. You mentioned it right before. But we were on that really good run, and I remember we had 3 home games on the run. We had Southampton, Wimbledon, and Chelsea in a week, all at Goodison, and it was win 1, draw 1. We're sound. We'll more or less be okay. And we drew all 3 of them, 2 0-0s and a 3-3. And which meant we ended with 2 away games, didn't we? We went up to Ipswich, which was a real tricky game because they were difficult to go to Portman Road, but you come up with a massive goal that night, didn't you, to secure our status?
Yeah, actually, I think that's when the team realised, let's just get it done. Let's get this out of the way, give ourselves a game to enjoy before the final so that we can work on stuff. Ipswich was our weakest opponent. They weren't doing particularly well. But given how far that is away, and on a weekday, peeing down with rain, the fans are phenomenal. It was just excellent. We never felt like we were going to lose that game. It was 1-0, but it should have been more than that. And after that game was where you just say, hey, we can just enjoy these next 2 games, even though it's the last home game of the season, to thank the fans, and then obviously Wembley, you're going to enjoy it. If you've got that last game, you're still worried about relegation. It's a big issue. So we got that out of the way. That the goal was kind of a fluky goal, but it was an important one, and that was actually a better feeling than the FA Cup because of the importance. Again, it just is.
Yeah.
It is. You can win a cup, but if you're not in the top league, then what does that all mean anyway? So, going home on that trip, we had a great trip back, enjoyed it, and you just preparing for the final. So
yeah, it was a huge win, and you're right. We still had Coventry away, and it was just that everything was done then. Everyone was like, forget the Coventry game, it's Wembley now. And obviously in that little period, we'd lost Duncan as well, haven't we? Got a groin injury. So we had you struggling. We had Duncan struggling as well. So, I think Duncan come on at Coventry the last half an hour or whatever. We ended up drawing. But then you were saying you were struggling in the week of the cup final?
Yeah, I like just with pain on my ACL inside, and I felt that I'd be okay for the final, but it was one where I couldn't play the Coventry game, and Joe was good enough to give me a rest, and obviously that shows the importance of winning at Ipswich. Gave me an opportunity to do that, but what I'd always think about is that I think when you look at the final and then you look at Duncan's on the bench and I'm starting, that amazes me, because it's probably not right, because he's far superior than I was. But I think that I was in good scoring form, whereas Duncan wasn't scoring as many. It was a good season for me, and I just felt like I could score every game. I think that was where Joe Royle made that decision on I think, of that kind of premises, that I would deliver. I actually came off at half time, and Duncan came on and did a great job for us. But I was really surprised that I was starting in that game. So I'm thankful for it, and things worked out, so it was good.
I mean, you ended the season with 14 goals in 29 games. So, you were our top scorer, 1 and 2 in the Premier League. That was just Premier League goals, by the way. That, I think it was something like 17, 18 or whatever or overall. So you fully deserved your place. I mean, I love Duncan, but he was never that, he's never scoring that kind of goal, that that many goals that you were getting. He was more the focal point. And so for me, it was a no-brainer that you were starting. I remember being in the crowd, and it was whether Duncan was going to make it on the bench, and him and Amakati were on the bench, and that gave everyone a boost. But being in this, I've said this to Matt Jackson, it was so weird. We were a team that you'd scored the goal only 10 days earlier. But that second half of the season, we were on a great run. We beat United at home and things like that. And I was that confident going to Wembley against a team that had lost the league on the last day of the season.
Yeah.
So, a week before, we're going for the double.
Yeah.
And when Graham Stewart hits the bar, I didn't follow the ball. I just looked at the net, expecting the ball to hit the net.
Yeah.
And so it hits the net. I'm expecting it anyway. So I didn't realise you'd scored the first, because obviously bedlam breaks out, doesn't it? I've just seen the ball hit the net.
Right.
And then running everywhere, tears in my eyes and everything.
Yeah.
So it was, that team had just created that for our fans, that we just expected to beat the team. That now when I think about it, at this age, I'm like, how did I expect us to just beat United then? We were 15th in the league and they were second, but that's how good a run that team had turned in that second half of the season.
Yeah, and again, that goes down to management. I mean, obviously the players, you do your part, but without the leadership, it's very difficult. And that's why the importance of having a solid manager that not just understands the game. That's why Pep, I love him, because he's such a player's manager, but he's so smart with everything. And there's not many of them around. I won't mention Klopp, but at the end of the day, it's. I think we've got one now with Ancelotti. I think he's fabulous, with the experience. I played against him in Italy, fabulous player, and I just think that it was a great manager to bring in at this time with such a strong squad. I think he can bring it together. But yeah, that's what belief is, and that's why. You win games. You have to have belief, not just ability. You look at Man United; they've got a lot of ability, but they have no kind of concept of team play in my eyes right now. They've improved, but they're still there and over there, and that's what we were. And then all of a sudden, we still lost games, but we knew why. And sometimes it was just pure good finishing. Sometimes it was. We didn't finish our chances, but there was a reason for it. But going to the cup final and playing in front of, again, it felt like a home game. It really did. It's just whether Evertonians are louder or not, I don't know. But you couldn't hear anything else but them. And when we were out there, if you look at the entire game, we were outplayed. But then, they had some great players at the time. They had a solid defence that didn't concede much. And as you said, they were second in the league. But they had something really to come out. They didn't want to come out empty-handed. That was a danger for us. We were we were going out and enjoy it. So there wasn't pressure in the way that it would normally be. Like, the last game of the season, you've got to stay up. It wasn't that. So it wasn't there. And you didn't feel it. You just enjoyed the occasion, and I can remember every minute of it. But Man United, the best part for me, and is you understand how much it means to Man United fans and their team is when we went into the bar afterwards and we saw 6 or 7 of them over there, silence, not a word to each other, looking over at our table, and we're just loving it, and they're going, did we just lose to that? And you could see it in their mind, disgust. But that's soccer. And I don't think they respected us enough. And again, Neville Southall had a phenomenal game, and Dave Watson was unreal in the middle there. It really was a defensive play rather than, everyone remembers the goal, but the way that we defended as a group was what was brought in at the start of the season, and it stood us well over that whole season, right to the last game, and that was a difference. But at times to win a cup, you need luck. You just do, and we certainly had it on the day. So, but what a great day! What a great day!
I bet you didn't think that 25 years later we still wouldn't have won another trophy after you scored that day.
No,
crazy.
And that's the sad part. It really is, because I mean, we've had a lot better teams overall. The club has spent a lot of money. I said this before. It's a little bit disconcerting when you're spending hundreds of millions. They had that kind of money. Joe didn't have that kind of money at the time, and I felt that he could have pushed it on. But there are some managers that have come to Everton, I'm not going to name names, that I thought were poor choices. And then, there's a couple that they've done really well with. But the one we have now, I really like him. I like the way he comes across, the way he talks. He's done it and seen it as a player, but he's managed for a long, long time now, some great teams. I think we've got it right now. And it's just getting the right mixture of players, and it's never easy. But I think that we're on the right track now, and new stadium and all that sort of thing. It's on the up and up, and again, it's a fabulous club. So yeah, I'm pretty sure. This inconsistency. I do think that this will go away with this coach. Some of the other coaches have been unlucky to a certain extent. Some of them have just been poor. And again, you've got to do it in a way that is acceptable to Everton fans. The way that we played that year and won the FA Cup. If we'd have played through that the next year and the next year, they wouldn't have accepted that, because it wasn't a good enough product to watch often enough. I just felt that, we finished 5th the next year, but he changed some players, and he brought in a couple of really special players, and we were playing different type of soccer, and it still suited us, because he changed it up in certain ways. And I just hope that we continue that with the group we have now. A lot of good young players that are exciting and will be top-notch players, but you have to have the right mixture. So.
Definitely. I mean, the next season, you just said we brought Andrei Kanchelskis in the summer. We beat Blackburn in the Charity Shield and won that, and they were champions. And it seemed as though we were going somewhere. We ended up finishing 6th in the end. We were 5th, weren't we? And ended up finishing 6th. But we won at Anfield. You set the Andrei Kanchelskis' goal up with a wonderful cross.
Yeah, I never been on a losing team when I was at Everton against Liverpool. So that was a lucky team for me. Again, every other team I'd never won against Liverpool, should I say, apart from once with Southampton. But yeah, I mean, it's when you look at all of that and some of the games that we played, that's what I'm saying about the timing. The owner now is willing to put money in, that he has. I think the previous owners put everything they had in, but they just didn't have enough. And if they had, I think that reinvestment at that time would have made a huge difference, and they would have kicked on. They needed to change several players out, and there was a lot of money, and they just didn't have it. So timing is everything again.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, going into your last season, obviously we finished season 6, went out to Port. I was going to talk about Port Vale, but let's leave it. It was depressing. As going out to them on a replay wasn't great. But going into what turned out to be your final season, I mean, were you expecting it to come to an end so quickly?
Yeah, when you're my age, and the future is coming through. There's no reason for them not to change out an older player that, particularly if I still had pace. Well, I say still, I never had pace, but if if I was a little bit younger, then maybe I'd have probably hung in there a little bit longer. But you could see the writing on the wall, and it was a good time to finish for me. The fans were phenomenal to me, and I want to leave on a good note. And I just felt that, going to China wasn't a kind of ideal place to go to, but the opportunity to go there for the money. And I always said that I went for the money because it was tax free, and it was a totally different idea. I didn't really want to go to a lower team than Everton. I want to finish at a top club. So this is just a good opportunity. It was a 9-month season, so I felt that if it didn't work out, then I could come back and play somewhere else. But it wasn't the nicest place. Lovely people. Chinese people are so genuine and very nice people. But it was a horrible life experience as far as living it week in, week out. But you see another side, and you appreciate what you have when you come back. The Chinese people were superb. I had a South African player I played with that was a good player, but it was I did really well, and it was the right time to go there, and I could still do a good job. I just didn't think I could do a good job for Everton, and I didn't want to finish a bitter and twisted season with the fans. I just felt that they looked after me, and it was time to move on. So.
Just two things from that season then. First of all, was it a surprise when Joe left? Because it surprised us as fans.
Yeah. You don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but that really did surprise me. And it's a bit sad, to be honest, how it happened in the end. But that's soccer. When you look at the last sort of 10 years of Everton and how many coaches have moved on. I just hope this is one where we have that stability of 4 or 5 years. And really, if you look at all the best teams, the teams that have done really well over time, the managers have been there for a long time. If you look at Liverpool, Man United with Ferguson and Man City, he's been there 4 years, 5 years now. They're all his players. And it does take that much of time. People don't get that much time now, but I just believe that we have the right person now, and that it is what it is. So fingers crossed it works out.
Just so your last appearance for Everton was obviously Dave Watson took over for a couple of games and you weren't involved, and then I don't know whether you were injured or you just weren't involved, but then you were asked to play in centre midfield against Tottenham at home. And we win you were absolutely brilliant. I think you were man of the match. We won the game 1-0. Gary Speed scored early on, and then you left on a motorbike, and that was the last we saw of you. I mean, how did the midfield thing come about, and what was the story with the motorbike?
Well, the game itself, I think we had an injury in midfield, and I just said I could do a job there because I'd played with Glasgow Rangers as a centre half in a couple of games. I got man of the match there, and then because it's Scotland. At the time, Rangers were magnificent. They could beat anyone. I don't mean that about Scottish soccer. Scottish soccer it was good. It was a good league, but and then I told the coach that I felt I could do a good job. I was fit and I could get around the field. And I again, I thought I had decent vision, so it worked out really well. It was a good game, and it was a tight game. But Speedy came in with a great goal, like he did. Fabulous player, and it just worked out for us. It was a really enjoyable way to leave the club. Kind of almost take him out of danger. But I was supposed to Dave Watson told me, "You're staying for the Liverpool game," and I said, "I can't, otherwise this deal's going to go sideways." I said, "I'm begging you, let me go." And in the end, he said, "Yeah, you can go," which was, cool of him. And obviously getting out of the dressing room, and then someone told me I had so much time to get to the plane, and he said, "You ain't gonna make it by car. I've got a buddy that we got a motorbike ready for you." So ran out of the dressing room, jumped on a bike and trying to beat all the traffic. It was crazy, and people double taking because they could see who it was. It's like, what the hell's going on there? It's just weird, and what a crazy life. So there you go.
What a way to finish your Everton career, just on the back of a motor. Kept us up.
Finished on a win. That's
kept us up. We won the game, and you get off to the airport on a motorbike like Jason Bourne. Not a bad way to not a bad way to finish.
Yeah.
Not a bad way to finish. I mean, you ended up, you were in Shiny, you come back, went to play for Kansas City Wizards over in the States, and then back to China, and then ended up on Merseyside with Waggy again at Tranmere.
Yeah. The strangest game, and in a way, the saddest game for me was when I came back to Everton, and we beat them in the FA Cup, and we're down the bottom with Tranmere. We're not doing particularly well, and that was, kind of took me back to where we were. That particular game, they stopped trying, and we were doing that, and you could see the fans, but I came off about 10, 15 minutes towards the end, and Tranmere fans gave me a great reception, and then the Everton fans, phenomenal. Jeez, tears to your eyes stuff. It was just immense. Their team's losing 3-0 to us, and it's a derby really, and to get that kind of reception was just great.
Incredible. Well, you deserved it for scored us FA Cup winning goals and kept us in the Premier League and played in midfield and escaped on a bike. You deserve that. You deserve that kind of send off. Just the final thing, Paul, because I really do appreciate you giving up so much of your time to have a chat. It's been absolutely fantastic. You mentioned it before, but obviously the club has plans to leave Goodison Park and move on to Bramley Moor Dock. What do you think? What do you think we'll miss, or what will you miss about Everton not being at Goodison Park, having played there so many times?
Well, I played there so many times, not just as an Everton player, but also as a player coming to that atmosphere and that ground. And, things have to move on, they just do. But I just hope it doesn't become a Southampton. I don't feel that the atmosphere there was, if you ever were at the Dale, which I'm sure you were, that was why they did so well. That was such a tough place for anyone to go and play. And I feel that part of, the Goodison, been there forever, and it's one of those stadiums where, it's just takes time to fit into a new one and get used to it and whatever. But there's so many memories for so many people, and but life moves on, and it has to. They have to have bigger crowds. There's a lot of people get locked out because the stadium's not big enough, and it is old, and they pay good money, so they should have better facilities to watch the game in. And I think in the long run, it's a good thing. You look at the Tottenham Stadium, and then you look at Goodison's, and it's not good enough for Evertonians. It's not. It needs to be a new stadium. So you have to kind of look at it that way. But it'll be a sad day. It will. You always have good memories of that place, and when it's no longer there, it will be strange for a lot of people to walk by there and not see the stadium. So.
I hope you get back before we leave it, and Jordan and the other lads. And
I will for sure. Yeah, I haven't been back.
Ped's just passed me that to show you. Kansas City Wizards shirt because you played for them, so there you go. There you go. What are you up to now then? Obviously you live in the States. Before we go, what are you coaching? Or
Yeah, I'm coaching kids. I have 3 age groups I coach right now. It kind of just under the DA level. And so they're U8s, 13s, 15s and 17s. So I have a good mixture of all sorts, and it's fun time. I really enjoy my coaching. It's a great little club that does it the right way. We're connected with RSL Salt Lake, which is the MLS team, and we send all our best players up to their academy, and we have our own academy at the same time. So the club has really grown, and it's a good life for me. I train in the evenings. I go to California. That's our away games, California, Vegas. So it's not all bad, and again, it's something I really enjoy. I stayed in the game, and as a family, we love it. Now my 2 kids are coaching college, and they love the soccer game. So it's great for us.
Outstanding. You deserve it, mate. Enjoy it. Enjoy that 108 degrees heat that you're having there while we switch our heaters on over here. But listen, Paul, thank you so much for taking the time.
Great interview. I really enjoyed talking to you. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
It was outstanding, and pass our best wishes on to Jordan, because we speak to Jordan through Twitter and all that. So,
okay,
and obviously your missus for sorting it as well. Outstanding, Caroline there. So thanks.
Yeah,
stay safe.
Yep,
stay safe, and hopefully you get to chat to you again at some stage in the future.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Paul. Cheers. Thanks a lot. Take care. The brilliant Paul Rideout there, scorer of the goal the last time we won a major trophy. Thanks so much, Paul, for taking the time out. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up, subscribe. If you haven't, if you want to see the full uncut version of this, get over and join us on Patreon. See you later.